All right, we're up. This is the Our Town with Troy By, and special episode today. They're all special, and I hope you feel special, Josie Evans, as I look at you. I want to start. I want you to introduce your daughter, and let's just talk a little bit about your family first.
Okay. Well, first, thank you for allowing us this time to come and speak with you.
Yeah.
This is our daughter, Yanna Evans. She's 23 years old. Graduate of the University of Alabama, Tuscaloosa.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. And she's looking at starting her master's in January in PR and advertisement.
Where?
University of Alabama.
Okay, going back.
Going back, yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So, and you were a Chief Warrant Officer 4,
yes.
Retired, and Julian was a Chief Warrant Officer 5.
Yes.
But before we get into that, talk about your other kids.
Well, I have 4 stepkids. They're all 4 living in Ohio.
Okay.
2 are 31, and then one is 27 and 25. And they reside in Cincinnati.
Okay. And that's where Julian was from.
That's where he was from, yes.
Okay. How long did he live in Cincinnati?
All his life until he went to college for about a year and did the typical thing and ended up in the Army. So, yeah, until he went into the Army.
Typical meaning he didn't take his studies very seriously?
He did not. He was a football player, and hey, he did the football life.
Partying?
Yes, having fun.
No one there to help him do his assignments?
I guess not.
You need to figure out how to play the game. Oh, very good.
Small schools, they don't have all those benefits.
Yeah.
Right.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Abbeville, Alabama, actually. So I'm from Alabama.
Where's Abbeville?
Abbeville is lower Alabama. We call it L.A. It's close to Dothan, Fort Novosel area.
Okay.
I was actually born outside of Fort Novosel Gate in Ozark.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately where your husband's last command was, right?
Yes.
In Novosel.
Yes.
With the Chief Warrant Officer College.
Yes, the Warrant Officer Career College.
Career College.
Yes.
And how many siblings do you have?
Ooh. So I am the youngest of 6 on my mother's side and the youngest of 9 on my dad's side.
Okay.
And they're only child together.
Okay. So, okay, I think I got that. I think I'm tracking. So somewhere around 15.
It was a Brady bunch.
They had
only one last edition.
Here's the story of a lovely lady. And then, but Julian was the only child.
He was an only child, yes.
Okay. And interesting thing about Julian, he was the 3rd.
Yes.
And there's also a Julian the 5th, right?
Yes.
So
as a J5.
He would be a great grandfather.
He'd be a grandfather.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So let's. I know we're kind of jumping all over the place here, but the gist of this is Julian passed away July 10th.
Correct.
When did you retired? When did you retire?
January of 2019.
Okay. So before the pandemic started.
Yes.
Okay. And he was still working.
Yes, he was still here. He was. I was working at LAGSA under Colonel Kuenzli.
Oh, you were? Oh, okay. There's a
yes.
connection.
And my husband was working at PEO Missiles and Space. He was the chief advisor, warrant officer there.
Who was the best commander you ever had?
Colonel Kuenzli.
All right, just say that. Had to get my plug in for my time, Troy.
But honestly, if I did have to say, because of my history and the things that I went through the last few years in the military, if I had to say, I would say, sir, you are the best commander I had. He stood by me as I went through all my medical procedures. I mean, I had commands that did not understand what I was going through. So in their mind, I was, hey, she got to go. But when Colonel Kuenzli seen what was going on and knew what was actually going on, he was like, take care of yourself first. I mean, phenomenal. Supported me and my family.
You know, I've given the Kuenzli family many props in my episodes. Seriously. Over the when it's appropriate, right? I'll be talking to someone and say, I was talking to the Kuenzlis, and
I'm gonna have to watch your show more.
You should. That's what I'm saying. It's an enticement to watch. But you know, and that's you know, it's somewhat rare, right? When you really connect with people. And you see something genuine in them. And of course, I'm also met Gabe, his son, who's exceptional. And, you know, you sometimes just feel privileged to know someone.
Yes.
And I feel privileged that not only did I get a chance to interview John, but since then, there's those referrals. I just interviewed a guest where he was a friend of his. And this guy was very interesting. His great great grandfather was the first senator of Montana.
Oh, wow.
And was involved in the whole like Wild West and trying to bring order. There was no law, but they were trying to bring order to the Wild West during like the Gold Rush era, and just trying to territories. And the Civil War breaks out, and he comes down to Alabama, and he had some freed slaves with him.
He was a big abolitionist at the time.
And they said something like, "Hey, you need to turn those slaves back." So he's like, "No." So he resigned his commission.
Oh, wow.
And then took whoever he could back up north, right? But just another fabulous story, of which I appreciate the opportunity to do
Which I
the
think
research.
you worked with him. Ben Sanders was one of our Army civilians at LOGSA.
At LOGSA, yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was his great-great-grandfather.
grandfather.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Small world.
It is.
Yeah.
We're all connected.
We are.
But, you know, and I mentioned that because so much of this goes back to our parents who raised us, right? Or if it wasn't parents, then grandparents or aunts and uncles or however we are reared and who has influence on us. Who had the most influence on you?
With going in the military or my entire?
I mean, setting the stage when you were younger.
So
It sounds like there was a big household,
Yes.
potentially.
Well, I grew up in the home with my siblings on my mother's side.
Okay.
So 6 of us, and then including my niece, who's only like 3 years and 11 months younger than me. So to be the baby, I typically wasn't the baby. She was more like the baby. But I think what drove me, my mother, we lived in a small home, wasn't even 1,000 square feet. But she always instilled in us that one thing you will not do is take government handout. You will work hard for whatever it is that you want in life. She always pushed us to be better, whether it was to go to college. Hey, I don't have the money to send you to college. You can get the grades to go in the military, or you can get a job. There's nothing wrong with having a job, but what you will not do is live off government assistance or, become troublemakers, go to jail, things of that nature. So she pushed us to work hard, but most of my work ethics came from watching her work the 2 and 3 jobs, watching my older sisters take care of us, comb our hair, help us with our homework, make sure we got on the bus while mama was working. So I seen hard work all my life between my mother and my father.
And she's still alive?
She is. She's 82.
Okay.
And she's something else.
And she's down in Lower Alabama?
She was up here in Huntsville with me until everything happened, but
Okay.
she's down with my sister right now. My mother has early stages of dementia. So when she was diagnosed in 2019, she moved in with me.
Gotcha. My mother lived with us for 7.5 years, and I know what that's like. And she has traumatic brain injury, so it's not necessarily dementia, although age is now making it worse for her.
Right.
And that's tough.
Yeah.
So my hats go off to all those who are have her in her care.
Yeah.
So then when did you meet Julian?
So actually, it's funny you asked that. I just forwarded an article to one of my sisters that I did with advanced sighting. Advanced sighting is a place where, they get the donor, the corneal stuff for the eyes. So Julian was able to give sight to 2 people.
I actually might have that article.
Yes.
Is that it?
Is
Gives
that
the gift of
advanced
reason.
Yes.
Okay.
And so when you read that article, you can see that we met at Fort Rucker as TAC officers, and I could not stand him.
Yeah, it says, at first I couldn't stand him. Josie Evans laughs as she describes meeting the man she would later marry. They met as warrant officers in the Army. He made a joke about her haircut. We didn't hit it off at first, she says. What was wrong with your haircut? No bangs or something?
Well, I had cut my hair completely off because when I was at Fort Lee, I had a very rare illness called Chiari malformation. So I had a cranial decompression.
Oh.
And so, being that I had the cranial decompression, it was recommended I didn't put any kind of chemicals or anything in my hair. Josie being Josie, I did it anyway and paid for it. So I had to cut my hair off. But my hair is really curly. So when he seen me, he made the joke of, "Oh wow, I didn't know black people were still wearing jerry curls." So, and I was like, "This is my natural hair, you know." So that was the second time he had made a smart comment to me. I was like, "Oh, I just can't stand this guy." And so one of our friends, her name was Maria Bird. She was like, "Watch, y'all gonna end up together," and that's what happened. We ended up together.
Well, so the second paragraph says, even though his sense of humor didn't immediately make a positive impression, Julian Evans' kind heart and passion for helping others certainly did. He never met a stranger, says Josie. He moved homeless vets into our home. Anybody that comes to him in any kind of need, he would help them. So when is that you started to recognize this? What was going on where you got past the, I don't like this guy, and you saw the kind heart, or what drew you to him?
His assistance as I was going through tax certification. So, in order to become a tax officer, you have to go through the certification process. And I started noticing just how, some people can come off kind of cocky, but then you really get to see that they have a heart because they're like, okay, no, it's this way, it's that way. So I started seeing his heart then, and then I started to see his heart as he started to help those that were falling out. So his bark was really big, but he had no bite. No bite at all. Okay. Yeah. So I started to see his heart there. I was like, okay, he's not that bad. He puts up a facade that he's something he's not. So
he in the I watched both the funeral, the family funeral, if you will, and then the military ceremony, and they kept saying he was a big guy, like tall and like how big is big?
So he was like 6 feet, but he looked like a football player.
Okay.
But his voice was extremely loud. He had a voice that would scare you. When he spoke, people listened. So he when he walked in a room, it's like you knew he was there. Everybody listened. They stopped. They listened.
Command the room.
Yes. I used to tell people, I was like, I don't get it. How can God give so many talents to one person? Because he was very smart. Very intelligent, could cook anything, knew just about everything, could do just about everything, wrote great. And I asked him one day, I was like, all these talents you have, why don't you retire? It's nothing that you cannot do. People were offering him like, hey, you retire, come see me. But he loved the Army. So.
Do you think that was just, he had the time and attention as the only child? He wasn't splitting time with other siblings on...
He didn't have any other siblings. Julian's mother, to me, was the epitome of a mother because she not only taught him how to be a man, her and his father, but she also nurtured him. She showed him love. I grew up in a home where it was understood. My parents were traditionalists, so it was understood that you were loved because you were provided for. But in his home, it was, I love you. It was hugs. It was kisses. So his mother has a big heart. His mother's very kind. So I think it just kind of, he learned that through her, and what he received, he also returned.
Tell me about your first date. Where did you go? What was the circumstance?
Actually, our first date was like the gym.
Okay.
We had that in common. Hey, you want to go to the gym? Yeah, let's go to the gym. You want to go run? Let's go run. We both were very athletic. We both love to just sit at home and watch movies.
Before it's called Netflix and chill.
Right. Well,
it's like a VHS tape or something and chill.
VHS,
Blockbuster and chill.
CD.
Yeah.
You could go rent a movie from Blockbuster. But that was even before Redbox, I think.
Right.
So, yeah. But Julian and I find enjoyment in athletical things. That's what we did a lot of.
Now, in that gym, was he trying to bench a little extra? Was he trying to...
Actually, we were more of the hit people. So we did a lot of high intensity training.
Okay.
Yeah. It was more of a competition, I believe. Julian was the type of person that never wanted me to outdo him. I would never forget when we were W4 at the same time. He was not having it. Oh, my God. He was like, oh... Next year, my board, he did not.
So you got promoted to a W4 and then he was still a 4?
And he was still a 4.
Okay.
But he was, he became promotable shortly after. So, and when he been 5, that was it. People always ask us, how does 2 warrant officers stay in the same house? How y'all get along? And
Yeah.
I told them, I typically back off and agree to disagree and let it go.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Now, for context, what year was this that you met?
We met in 2006.
Okay, 2006. Got
Yes.
it. So 5 years since 9/11, but both of you had been in he went into the Army in 93.
93.
He
Yes.
commissioned, right? But it wasn't until 02 that he became a warrant officer. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so he went as a warrant officer. It's 2 ways you can go in. You can do high school to flight school, and typically there are 18, 19-year-olds that take the test and go into basic training. Once they graduate from basic training, then they go to warrant officer school. Or you can be an NCO. Once you hit 6 years in, it used to be 6. Who knows what it is now? Once you hit 6 years in, you could apply. Majority of the warrants way back then had like 11, 12 years in. I think Julian went warrant with 9 years in. I was one of those fortunate enough to go warrant with 6 years in. So he was an E7 and then switched over to become a W1.
Okay. And when did you go into the Army?
I went active duty in 1997.
Okay. Gotcha. We're probably about the same age.
Maybe.
I'm 48. I just turned 48.
Yeah, I'm 47.
Okay.
Yeah, be 48 soon.
He turned 50, right? He was 50.
He was 50.
Okay. Yeah, I got to be honest. I didn't grow up. My parents both were disabled, so they didn't have careers. And so it wasn't until 2 years ago I didn't know what a warrant officer was.
Oh, wow.
I'd always knew about the military. I had a grandfather who was in the Air Force, but my grandfathers, I think, were just tired of life and, kind of having to re-raise kids where we never talked about the military service. We never had any discussions about like having a career in the military and what does that look like. And so I, at some point you learn some things along the way.
Right.
But I remember actually it was last year. I think it was last year. I was sponsoring a Trash Pandas game. I worked for Mantech and we got to throw out the first pitch. And so I'm asking some of the guys that work for me, hey, who would like to do this? And like most people are like, I don't want to do that. They'll be embarrassed. They're going to throw their arm out. You got to throw a strike. It will laugh at you. And this one guy was like, I'll do it. And like, okay, what's your title? It was it was a game to honor veterans. And most of Mantech is veterans. And I'm like, what was your rank? And he's like, oh, I was a Chief Warrant Officer 3. I'm like, what? And I kind of realized, like, how did I go through life and not realize of this whole system of enlisted versus officer versus warrant officer?
Right.
Somehow I did. So I appreciate again, this is why I do these episodes, so I can learn some things. And hopefully by the time I pass, I'll have learned a lot of things that I didn't have a chance.
So warrant officers don't get talked about a lot.
I guess not.
They're this mysterious middle ground group. We call them the quiet professionals. I used to call them the untouchables because nobody could mess with Chief. They're all called Chief. You might call her Ms. Evans, but we just call her Chief.
Yeah.
But they do amazing work for us, right? And that's why they're untouchable, and they're not truly, but revered and regarded and coveted. When you've got great warrant officers working for you, you've really got tremendous capability in your force. And I had a team of warrant officers working for me at LOGSA, and Chief was one of them, just leading the way in there. And so, but it's just funny to hear you say,
Yeah.
I never knew what a chief was. Well, there's a lot of people in the Army that really don't fully understand what a chief is, what it really takes to make one right. You can't just hire somebody and make them a chief. We grow chiefs. Like, she did 6 years before she became a chief warrant officer. Julian did 9. He was a sergeant first class. He was a senior, proven non-commissioned officer when he decided to become a warrant officer. Right. And so they all have different paths, and then they have different skill sets, different special powers.
Yeah.
But they're super.
So if you're not, I guess, you can either go one of two ways. Let me just hear me out. The non-commissioned route, which also includes warrant officer, or you go the commissioned route, the officer route. And so then is the warrant officer portion of the non-commissioned just improve?
So,
Is a more illustrious career, more training, more requirements?
so warrant officers. So you have two types. You have a
Right.
technical warrant and you have an aviation warrant.
Okay.
So in the Army, most of our pilots are aviators. Are warrant officers. You do have some that are old grade that fly, but majority of warrant officers.
Okay.
So those are the ones that have the option of doing it the way that we did it as technicians, or either flight school to high school to flight school, where they can graduate high school, take the test and go to basic training and go to warrant officer school and become a pilot. Now those guys do not like being called chief. They don't like being called chief because they're E7 or E8 that's in the cockpit with them are called chief.
They have a crew chief.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's an enlisted man.
Right.
Sergeant. Yep.
But for the type of warrant that I was and Julian was, we were called technical warrants, meaning we're the subject matter expert in our particular field.
Gotcha.
Julian was a missile maintenance guy. So he did a lot of the missile work, the weapon systems. I was a 920 Bravo, which is supply system technician, which is it's logistics, but also it's logistics to another power. You have another portion that's a 920 Alpha, where they handle the property books. But on my side, we handle all types of logistics as well as the logistical systems.
Warehousing, supply chain functions.
Right.
Yeah.
She would be the detailed technical expert for the automated systems that handle the supplies, multiple types of supplies for the Army, and then how much needed to be on hand, where, when,
Yeah.
when we're trying to get it from somewhere because we don't have it now. We got broke tanks. She'd find the
Allocations.
solution.
And I could see how, going back to his episode, when he ended up taking over 2 brigades, right? And that's a huge piece of that is logistics, right? And I'm sure you're trying to get your hands around 60. You went up to 64,000 troops or something like that.
Contractors in the across Afghanistan and the Arabian Peninsula. Yeah, it wasn't in that time. It wasn't a huge number of soldiers I had assigned to me because of the type of brigades we had in the AMC, and it was a little bit more Army civilians, but it was all these contractors that were technically under the command.
Yeah.
And so, warrant officers could do amazing things for us.
If you had to do it again, would you go the same route?
I would. What I failed to tell you is at 16 years old, I was trying to join the Army. Got all the way up to MEPS. Recruiter did not ask my age. I guess he didn't look at my birth certificate. So I wasn't able to join. He went on an investigation because they thought he promised me something. I was like, well, no. I guess he just didn't ask my age. I thought my mom could sign at 16.
Oh.
So
Yeah, because you have to graduate high school, right?
well, you can join at 17.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up joining the reserves at 17 with my parents' signature. And I did delayed entry and went to basic training in AIT as a reservist. And then 1997 is when I went active duty.
Okay.
Yeah. But yes, I would do it all over again. I always wanted to be in the Army. I was that girl that sat in front of the TV singing "Be All You Can Be" in the Army. That was me.
But why? This is the thread I want to pull on, and I read something where you and Julian would talk about the education and what the military provides. But when you're watching these commercials about being all you can be, is that it, or was there another element or component to why you wanted to join the military?
So when I joined the military, I really didn't even understand all the educational benefits nor medical, dental, any of the stuff that it provided. I was a tomboy. I played all kind of sports. There wasn't much to offer in my hometown. My parents didn't. Neither one of them had a college education. My older siblings didn't either. So didn't know much about how to get into college, being from that little small town, backwoods, Alabama. So the Army was my dream. It was my dream. So,
And who were those conversations you had? You must have had a mentor or someone who helped that you asked some questions to. Hey, what are my options?
just a recruiter.
That's it.
Yes.
So
Believe it or not, I was the first in my family. I led the way in my family.
Into the military or to college?
In the military,
Okay.
in college, and everything
Got
from
it.
my side. So now, since me, I have put two nieces, 3 nephews in the military, So, yeah.
No.
So I got to jump in right there and just
Okay.
a plug for the military services, right? How much it can change in a young person's life in terms of giving them opportunities that they may have not had, or even their parents might not be able to provide them.
Yeah.
That opportunity for education, for advancement. And now look generationally what that's done for your family.
Right.
Right? You are the shining example for a lot of young people today to answer the question in their mind, why should I serve?
Right.
Well, there's goodness in service, as we talked about, but the opportunities that you see that has changed your life and enabled your life, right?
Right.
That's amazing.
We talk about it all the time. And that's part of how the scholarship came about. There are not a lot of kids that have the opportunity that my daughter was allowed. I was able to give her my Chapter 33 GI Bill so that she can go to school for free.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed that. I didn't have that opportunity. And there's a lot of kids out there that don't have that opportunity. So, yes, the military opened the doors for a lot. Just even with my medical journey, excuse me, I have $1 million mouth and didn't pay $1 for it. So, it's not only does it train you, discipline you, makes you a deep thinker, makes you analytical, makes you look deeper. It teaches you respect. It teaches you how to think beyond what's in front of you. But it also provides a great lifestyle, not only for you as the soldier, but also for your family.
And so, based on everything you've shared so far, what seemed to really fuel that was those conversations, though, that your parents, where they said, don't rely on the government. Don't rely on handouts, or what, you have to forge your own way, or work hard. And then you're left with looking at, well, what are my options? Right. So you have that in the back of your mind. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to figure this out.
Right.
How do I do it? I'm going to go to the military.
Right.
Accurate?
Accurate. I seen it firsthand with my mom because my sister had my niece young. And my sister tried that, going to get government assistance. And as soon as my mom found out about it, she took her back to the facility, had her give it all back, disenroll, get a job.
Yeah.
You had her, you take care of her. So she made us responsible for our choices.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome. Let's talk about, if you could we talk about your surgeries? You had 52 surgeries and it was on your mouth?
Yes.
So do you mind talking about what happened there? What's the circumstance?
Oh, no problem. So 2014, we were getting ready to deploy to Afghanistan. It was going to be my second tour. We were going through our medical portion of review. Mm-hmm. And when we got to my dental, they put up an x-ray from 2010. And that x-ray had an itty-bitty black spot in my lower gum. They told me it was a cyst, possibly, and that I would just be a later deployer. Well, after they removed it and biopsied it turned out to be a very rare tumor called odontogenic myxoma. So odontogenic myxoma, a myxoma can grow anywhere in your body. Mine was called odontogenic because it grew in my mouth. And it had grew so large that it had spread all around my lower jaw. And myxomas eat away the bone. I had no signs, no symptoms, didn't even know it was there. And it was evident that it was there 4 years prior. It was just never caught.
And now they saw just a spot. That was it.
They saw a spot thinking it was a cyst.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
Of course, they had to go in and clean it out. But when they went in to take it out, it was all over the place. And it was a different color than a cyst. So when they did the biopsy, that's what it came back to be. And my first surgery was 14 and a half hours. They removed my entire lower jaw.
My goodness.
They took my fibula bone from my left leg. So I don't have a fibula bone in my left leg anymore to reconstruct with. They took blood vessels from my leg to give me blood supply here. So I have blood vessels that's connected in my neck with titanium caps. I had to talk through a tracheotomy for months. I had to feed through a feeding tube for months. I refused to leave the hospital in a wheelchair, so I left it on walker. So infection was my enemy. I would have a surgery, but then I would get infection and lose that bone. And that's what made my surgeries go so long. So my very first surgery was May 2014, with the last one being December 8th, 2022.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's when they finally put a chin implant in. So I lost everything down here. So my teeth is implants. My chin is an implant. My jaw is a little bone with titanium bar. I have bars running all up at the top. I've had gum transplant, where they took the gum from the top of the roof of my mouth to transplant it to the bottom. I've had PICC lines where I had to get IV antibiotics for 4 hours a day, twice a day. Just a lot.
They did a heck of a job on you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You wouldn't know.
Thank you. I think Colonel Kuenzli, you probably seen my face in many different stages. I used to walk around with a black scarf around my face because I didn't have like teeth and all that down here.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Are you in pain?
I have pain when it's cold. When it's cold, it's painful. Metal and cold don't mix. But I push through it. She'll tell you. We're working out, and I'm like, if I'm out here with no fibula bone, with this jumping and running, you can do it too. Let's go. So I actually had only 2 surgeries when my unit returned from Afghanistan, and we had to take a PT test. And I went and took the PT test with a tracheotomy in and beat half of the people in my 2-mile run. So
where were all your surgeries?
My first 12 was at the University of Kentucky. I had a team of plastic surgeons and maxillofacial surgeons there. But the rest have been at the University of Alabama down at University UAB.
UAB.
Yeah, in Birmingham. Dr. Patrick Lewis, and just him as an oral maxillofacial surgeon did all my surgeries. I even asked him, I was like, okay, so who's going to be the plastic surgeon? Because my face was just so, disconfigured. He was like, I do all my own work, and he's the one that did everything. He did one surgery and it failed. And it went perfectly. And when it failed, he realized that something was going on in my body. So I had to go to infectious disease, and that's when they put the PICC line in to try to fight all the different infections I had in my body. And one of them was staph.
Do you have full range of motion?
I cannot open my mouth as wide as a normal person.
Yeah.
I have to cut up my burgers and smash them. I eat my wings and stuff with a fork. I don't have 100% filling. I have some filling, but not 100%. I have TMJ damage from it, so I have to get Botox injections in my jaw and in my head for that pain. But I'm grateful for what I do have because I've seen it go worse.
And is this like a genetic thing? Like, how do you?
Nobody in my family has ever had tumors or anything like that, so they're not sure how I got it. I mean, everything I've had is being rare. Even the Chiari was rare. If it could have happened to anybody, it happened to me. So, but no, genetically, my mother, only thing she has is dementia. That's it.
Yeah.
And she's 82 years old. My siblings are very healthy. My dad was healthy other than he had a few heart conditions, but no history of it.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
52
you should see
surgeries.
some of the pictures.
You could bring them. We'll have to show them to the audience.
I have them right there in my phone.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Some of them, even the one, because after my 14.5-hour surgery, I was on life support.
Oh, wow.
So I'm just laying there still in that. It was the weekend of Mother's Day, so it was really hard on her.
Sure.
Yeah.
She came into my office once after one of these leaves of absence where she was recovering. In the black scarves that she referred to, it was like a veil, and she was talking to me through it, and she would keep dabbing her mouth, right?
Yeah.
And I I couldn't, as I still think about it today, how just demoralizing that would have to be as a person, right? Everything that she was enduring going through that.
Yeah.
And then she said, and finally, she's trying to talk to me and explain what's going on. She pulled it down to show me a little bit, and it was just, it's the trauma that she has gone through. And you look at her today, and you would never guess that she's gone through all of that, right?
Yeah.
Testament to her strength, testament to the doctors and the medical community, and the good Lord above,
good.
I believe,
Yeah.
right?
Testament to God.
Are you covering the trach? Oh no, you. I can see it. Yeah, my mother
see
has
it.
one too.
You can see it right
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Do you have some kind of pity parties at time at all with the suffering that came with that? Talk to me about that.
I don't think. Well, I got to a point of weakness. I got to a point of weakness where I was like, I just can't do this. And this was at the beginning when I was at Fort Knox, and I think it came from the lack of support from my command as well. So I was dealing with that and dealing with all I was going through. No one truly understood what I was going through. So I got to a point of weakness, and I had some pretty dark moments. And in one of my darkest moments, and I was in my closet praying, asking God to forgive me for what I was about to do. I mean, I had a feeding tube. It was too easy.
Yeah.
And, you know, they say God always have a ram in the bush. And I thought my daughter was gone to school. I thought my sister was downstairs because my sister quit her job and moved out to Kentucky to help us out. And I thought she was downstairs, you know, in her room. And right when I was just finished praying, you know, preparing myself, knock on the door. And it was my daughter. And I hid everything, and she came in. She said, Mom, I just wanted to come in and let you know I was about to go to school. And I was like, I thought you rode the bus. She was like, no, Auntie Kay going to take me. But I want to let you know I love you, and you're beautiful to me. And right then,
That's awesome.
It changed me. It changed me.
I mentioned that. If you don't mind, I'm going to tell you a quick story. I interviewed Clayton Hinchman. He's the CEO of Ignite. Do you know Clayton?
I do not.
He also owns Black Patch Distillery. He had his leg blown off in Iraq in 2010, I think. I get him and this other guy confused. The guy who was killed in action. It was 2009, Iraq. Again, just two guests that were very similar. Anyway, he had his leg blown off, stepping on an IED, and went to Walter Reed and all that stuff, right? And he has like his short side, as he says, and he gets fit for a prosthetic. And he said this was about within a year of it happening, and he was out like in Colorado at some sort of like fundraising benefit for wounded vets or something like that. And he was doing a lot of woe is me, right? Why did this happen? And you know, he's in pain all the time, but he's at this they're like at a firehouse, like a fire station, having a benefit dinner or something, and he at some point has to go to the restroom, and he goes in there, and it's small, like tiny, almost like an old phone booth. And he came out and remarked to his wife, like, that has to be the smallest bathroom. Like, I could barely move myself. It was worse than like a plane lavatory, right? And then he sees other people go to use it, and every person there has some sort of, you know, had some sort of disability or amputees from combat. Well, then he sees a young man go in that has no hands, and his wife has to go with him. And he, at that moment, was like, this man can't do the most intimate thing. He can't even wipe his own backside. I am going to stop complaining. And he's like, I'm in pain all the time. But man, that like, it just hit him so hard when he saw someone else, you know, and it just, I don't know. I can't imagine not having a leg. And the pain that must be like, and how you deal with that, and you know, thank goodness to have family around you, right, to help you in those low moments, and to help you through that.
I actually took my when that happened, it made me look at me, and I said to myself, Josie, all your life you've never liked anything about you. You know, I realized that was an identity crisis. And so I used to do these things called a story conference, where I would go and speak about what I went through and you know, how I seen God in it and things like that. But the old Josie died and a new Josie lived. Old Josie that had this protocol religion, because I grew up in Southern Baptist, and I did what my parents did, not truly understanding that I didn't have a relationship with God. And through this journey, I got in a relationship with God. I realized that I was elevating professionally, but I was dying personally. Everything that I had went through, because it was hard being an outside kid on both sides, very hard. And that steered me to want to leave my hometown. And so I always said, I'll show you what I'm going to be. I'm going to show you what I'm going to be. But my showing you what I was going to be was me elevating professionally. But I never dealt with what I was feeling personally.
Yeah.
And through that surgery, when I lost my jaw, I gained me, you know, and that is priceless to me. It took that journey for me to realize me. It took that journey for me to realize there were some things I needed to fix and recognize about myself.
Yeah.
So I think in everything that we go through, even losing Julian was the best thing that could ever happen to me. He was my everything under God. And when I get sad and I think about it, I think about the one guy, he was a pro football player. And he and his wife and 4 kids was driving home just from a family night out. They were a mile from home. And a drunk driver hit him a mile from their home. And he lost his wife and 3 of his kids that night. So I think about things like that when I get down about losing my husband so young, the things that we didn't get to do. And I've gotten to a point now where I try to capitalize on what we got to do and what he was to me and what he taught me and the type of husband he was. I have no complaints. I have no regrets. And if I had it to do all over again, I would pray that he would choose me again.
Yeah.
You know,
So let's talk about Julian. Very decorated career. Again, commissioned in '93, ultimately rose to Chief Warrant Officer 5, one more than you. It was funny in the family funeral, right? There was a guy, I think his name was Rodney Cotton, maybe, and he was up there talking about how it was always the one up with those two guys.
Nolan.
He's like, he's got 5 kids, but I've got 7, you know,
Yeah.
and there was just, it was really funny part of the service where the friendship that they had. I guess it started out, they were more of like, not enemies, but they didn't really like each other. There was some antagonism there earlier in their relationship.
Yeah.
And then they grew to become like brothers.
Yes.
And it was just the similarities. And the guy hated it because Julian was faster than him.
Right.
Like, there's just one thing he could never do was outrun this guy.
Yeah.
But can you talk about, let's just jump to when he gets sick. How fast was this?
Well, he wasn't sick at all. Julian was one of the most healthiest people you could meet. I mean, if the doctor gave him something for pain, he went, researched, and found the herb for it.
Okay.
He studied his blood type. His blood type doesn't require a lot of meat, so he didn't eat meat. He had no illnesses. He had no issues. He just had wear and tear on his body from the military. So 2019, he had a surgery on his right rotator cuff up here in Huntsville. Everything went well. Everything went fine. So when he got down to Novacell, he started having pain in his left one. And they, came to the conclusion that he needed to have that one completed. So he decided to have it down there instead of coming back to the doctor. He knew. He had this thing about him. He researched his doctors, but he had this thing that if you did not look like you took care of yourself, he wouldn't let you touch him, And his doctor looked physically fit, had a good reviews. So he had rotator cuff surgery. And after rotator cuff surgery, about maybe 3 weeks later, got a blood clot and hit his lungs. And that's what took him out.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was unexpected.
Where were you when you found out?
I was in Huntsville. I actually was, I was down there for the surgery. I was there with him until he was able to drive because my telework location was here in Huntsville. So I had to come back to Huntsville to finish to work. So once the doctors released him to drive, he was like, I'm good. You can go back now. So I was here in Huntsville. And July 10th, we had talked. I called him, and because he had been having some problems, he had came up here for another homegoing, a lady that was like our mother. So because Julian was a minister too, so he had to render the scripture for her funeral on that Sunday. And so he was having problems then. And then when he was driving back, he was like, my arm is just really, really swollen. Like it's built up with fluid. And I was like, why don't you go straight to the hospital? And so instead of going straight to the hospital, I think he called and they told him how to sleep. And
now,
so
he had been down at UAB?
He had been down at Enterprise.
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 That's formerly Fort Rucker, now Fort Novacell.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Aviation Center for the
Right.
Army.
Okay.
And
Yes.
the Warrant Officer Schoolhouse for the Army.
Yes. So he had went to Enterprise Hospital that Friday night and that Saturday night. I found out, complaining about his arm, and they just kept telling him what to take Motrin, sleep this way, elevate. So that Sunday before the funeral, he was saying that he was in pain or whatever, and both of us was telling him, "Could you please let's just go to the doctor," you know. And Julian was a stubborn guy too, because she started crying when she was talking to him, and I was like, I know you love the Army, I know you love it. I said, but they're gonna replace you, and you're irreplaceable to me. Those are my exact words to him. So I need you to go to the doctor. So we went to the funeral. He seemed to have been better. He drove back that night. While he was driving, his arm swelled up on him again. And so he told me he was going to go to see his doctor Monday morning. So I called him around noon to see what the doctor said. He was in a meeting at work. And I was like, why are you at work? You need to be at the doctor. And he said, well, they said he couldn't see me right now anyway, so I have to go later. He called me around 6 that afternoon, and we was talking, and he was like, babe, just feel like I can't breathe. I was like, get off the phone, call 911 right now. And I texted him around, I think my phone said 8:15 or so, and he didn't respond. I said,
PM?
PM. I said, hey, babe, you okay? I hadn't heard back from him. He didn't respond. So maybe about 15, 20 minutes later, I get a call from the colonel and asking me where were I? And I was like, I'm in Huntsville. He said, you're not in Enterprise? I said, no. He said, well, you need to get to Enterprise because they're working on your husband. I was like, what's going on? And he was like, you just need to get to Enterprise. And so I drove 5 hours. Well, I stopped over in Montgomery and picked up my sister, and she drove the other 2 hours.
Sure.
Just to get there and find out he had died at 8:48.
So 8:15 was you called. Do you have any idea of what time they started working on him?
I think 7 something.
And then you pull into town around midnight, 1 a.m.
About 2 or so.
2 or so.
Because I had to stop over in Montgomery for my sister to drive on down. So,
Yeah.
yeah, when I got there, he was gone.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Then what were those? You stayed down there for a few days? What
I did.
transpired after that?
We left the hospital probably about 4 a.m. because I just wanted to be with him while we waited on the coroner.
Yeah.
Doctor had no bedside manners for sure. Because I asked the doctor once I calmed down, I said, what happened? He said, what you mean? What happened? He died. No bedside manners at all. But, my mind was too far gone to even entertain any of that. And so once the coroner picked him up, we went to Dothan. My sister lived in Dothan. And I stayed with my sister there as we planned for things, sorry. And so everybody knows that active duty equates to autopsy. But they didn't perform an autopsy on it. They shipped him out quickly for donor. And
Because he was a donor.
yes, he was a donor. But regardless, they were supposed to do, the autopsy.
An autopsy.
But it did come out that what caused his death was the pulmonary embolism.
So they were able to determine that after?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they was able to determine it.
And I imagine you were flooded with, he was beloved,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I never forget that. I think I was like on the next day or night, I hear her in my sister's room just bawling on the floor. And I go in there and he's on the news. What had happened was on the news. And but yeah, Julian was well known.
When did he become an assistant pastor? And that was with Progressive Union? Is that the church?
Well, he has done he was associate pastor at Progressive Union here.
Okay.
We got here in 2015, but before that, he was the campus pastor at St. Stephen's Baptist Church in Kentucky under Dr. Kevin Cosby. He was ordained in, I want to say, 2014. Yeah, 2014, I think he was ordained, when he was ordained.
Is that something that you and him talked about a lot leading up to that? And what was causing him to want to scratch that itch, if you will? And
no, well, we talked about, God calling him to preach, the moment that he heard God's voice. So yeah, we talked about that, but both of us have always really been into our studies and our love for God. We were a family that would get up together, pray together, do our devotion together, get at the kitchen counter, and he would teach us, and we would talk about it. We would do fast together. He actually wrote a syllabus she was having a tough time with something, and he was like, we need a reset. So he wrote an entire syllabus on a reset, and we had to follow it by schedule of what we would do in that time with God. No social media, no unnecessary phone calls, anything like that. He had particular scriptures we had to read that day, particular times to do, and particular things to eat. So it was just always a part of his life.
so did your faith enrich in your marriage with him?
It did. It did. A lot of things in my life enriched in my marriage with him, because Julian taught me how to love. Because like I said, the way I grew up, love was understood by action.
Yeah.
I'm providing you a place to stay. I'm putting clothes on your back. That means I love you. But Julian his mother loved him. She loved on him. She called him baby. She hugged him. She stood by him. She didn't work all the time. She worked, but, she was present. She nurtured. So, yeah.
Did you have to make the call to her to inform her?
I couldn't. I couldn't make a call to anyone. My siblings, my sisters and friends took care of everything for me.
Gotcha.
Yeah, even down to the obituary. She pretty much wrote majority of the obituary, and I just kind of cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it been like the last 6 months? 5 months, I guess. Is there some periods where it's just denial?
Never denial, just pain.
Pain?
Shattered. They say you want to be broken, but not shattered. So me as a person is broken, but my heart feels shattered. It feels shattered. So it's been difficult, really hard, because even when we're in different places, it's like, every 5-10 minutes, we're calling each other. I could trip. I'm calling him. Babe, I just tripped over this, or he could have something for lunch. Guess what I just tried for lunch? Work out on FaceTime together. We did everything together.
Yeah.
Even our vacations, you better believe we're going to get up and we're going to run. Are we going to go walk? Are we going to go to the gym? And he'll go golf. I'll go back to the hotel. We come back together. And then the rest of the day, it's just us. So it was always just him and I once we got her out the house. So.
Did you know Julian? Did you meet
Just
him?
a very little bit. I met him a couple of times when they came into the headquarters together.
Yeah. I was listening to as I was doing the research, then I stumbled upon an interview that he did with the gentleman. It was kind of for the Warrant Officer, people who were interested in that, but it was just good to hear his voice.
Yeah.
Right. And he was very, very, very well spoken, well educated, excellent vocabulary. He used a word I've never even used, enculturate. And I was like, wow, that's a cool word. I'm going to start using that. I wrote it down, or of course, I had all these notes, and then I don't forget what notebook I wrote them in, so they're not here. Luckily, sometimes I remember things, but I was like, I like that word.
Yeah, his
enculturate.
His form of punishment when she would get in trouble, she understands contracts because she stay on a contract, and instead of, hey, I'm not gonna pop you, I'm not gonna whip you, you know what's gonna happen? You're gonna write this paper, APA format, this number of pages, this many references, or here's a book. Read this book, and don't think we're not going to read it. And I want a book report consisting of how many, pages or whatever. So that was his form of punishment. He loved education. He was all about education. So,
And how did that support you for going to Alabama?
Well, it definitely helped a lot. I did go to West Point my first year
There
out
you
of
go.
high school. And we did a college reveal party because I was accepted to so many colleges. And I will say that came from their way of disciplining me, which was writing papers, do your research, and all of that. And when I decided to leave West Point, he's like, well, you got to figure out a plan. I want a plan. And when he means a plan, he wants it well written or put in a PowerPoint, and he wants to know what's your plan and what do you plan on doing later on in life. And it always had to at least have 1 degree. So he harped on that so much. And he knew the deadlines of grades, and when something was due, they wanted my syllabi and everything.
Yeah.
So it definitely helped a lot,
I'm sure that's interesting for you to compare your experiences with your friends. You may be the only one that had to write a paper.
I was. They're like, you wrote papers?
My guess
Yes.
is it made Alabama kind of easy.
It did. It
Yeah.
does. And then on top of that, not only was education kind of a punishment, but working out also became a way of punishment. Waking up extra early.
Yeah.
I did Army ROTC at Bama too, which I'm still waiting on, commissioning and all that. But when I was training for advanced camp last summer, he was like, well, you're going to come down here and train. I'm like, I don't want to stay in Enterprise where I'm going to sleep. There's no extra bed. He went and got a whole bedroom set and was like, here, you're going to sleep here. Waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, going and doing rucks and working out at the park. And
Wow.
Chief, you didn't tell me your daughter is going to commission. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Was he
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
was he a did he ever consider West Point?
We didn't know about West Point.
You didn't. Okay.
No, we actually talked about that. Like, man, can you imagine the two of us if we'd have known about that school and how we are, how great we would have been as old grade officers. But then I told him, I said, I don't think we would have survived because there are certain things. Old grade officers have to always be politically correct.
Oh yeah.
Chief can get away with a little bit of not being politically correct. So most of the time they do most of the speaking and we do more of the, hey, sir, let me talk to you about something. You want to look at this. You want to look at that. This is what the regulations say. This is what you need to say in your meeting. We kind of sit back in the back and let the old grade officer speak because we can be not always politically correct.
Okay.
So, yeah. I don't think we would have survived.
You got kicked out.
We would have made it through the school, but I don't know if we'd have made it to Colonel.
And what was his college football team? Was he a Roll Tide guy? Uh-oh.
He was Roll Tide until you play Ohio State.
Oh, really? Oh, that's right. He's from Cincinnati.
Yes.
Even though it's in Columbus, right? Isn't it?
Columbus,
the Ohio
Ohio,
State's
right.
in Columbus.
Should have been a Cincinnati Bearcat.
He liked as far as pro ball, he liked the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals or something like that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
He's one of the few fans, right? No, I feel bad for the Bengals and the Browns because they always seem to have these great prospects, and it never works out. Yeah. No, the Bengals have had more success. Yeah. They've had some success.
Yeah, didn't they get the quarterback?
Joe Burrow.
Yes.
Right.
They were a game away from the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
But those poor Browns, man. Oh, Cleveland.
I'm more of a college football girl, but if I had to pick a team, I was telling her.
Pull it up again back towards you. There you go.
I was telling her if I had to pick a pro team, it would be Nashville, the Titans.
Yeah.
Because of Derrick Henry. I like Derrick Henry. Yeah.
I think he just re-signed, didn't he?
I'm not sure. Did he?
I think he did. I'm not how long it was, but I think he's going to stay.
Because
seems like he's been playing forever.
Because Julian and I watched football together every football season. The first game I've watched this year was Alabama and Auburn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
I'm sure that's hard.
Yeah, and that was because I was with all my family, so we kind of made it fun. We got instead of doing a traditional Thanksgiving, we got a cabin up in Tennessee, and just did like lasagna. Everybody had lasagna. I had a T-bone, and we just kind of hung out. 15 of us.
And then the fact they almost lost it in the last second. That
I know.
would have been scary.
4th and 31.
We were up like this. Like,
I think they're actually working on a documentary, like already for that 4th and 31 play, like that whole victory.
really?
Right? Yeah, if that didn't happen, then none of this we wouldn't have any controversy. Florida State would be playing in the playoff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Oh, well.
part of this too is the reason I love long form podcasting is that we get to talk for a long time, and I hope you get a chance to have plenty of people take interest in your story, right? Newspaper articles or times on TV, but the reality is they're not going to give you 2 hours or whatever, however end up we talk. But so hopefully people will be inspired by this and consider becoming a warrant officer and that element of the military. But it's also maybe some people learning a little bit more about Julian that they wouldn't know.
Right.
So is there anything that, not to embarrass the guy, but, like, is there anything about Julian that's not so great? We all pump him up and what a great guy, but did he have some phobias that were like odd or
He ate everybody's food.
ate everybody's food?
He was the garbage can in the house. He was. But he was
You're not going to
silly.
eat that?
He didn't ask. He just took it. He didn't ask. But he was really silly. When you look at him, you see this big guy that looks serious, kind of scary.
Yeah.
But he was silly. He was silly. I never forget. And they showed it at the at his homegoing. She made a video, and she had just got her puppy, and we were in Enterprise, and he walked in the door, and Tayana was like, "Hey, Pops." He was like, "Hey, puppy." Play with the puppy. "Hey, puppy." And we would just do silly stuff. Like I made up a song one time because he's always late getting home. And we were still both active duty. So I made a cheer like, "Julian's home, Julian home. Yeah, 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 yeah." Jumping up and down. And so when I finished, he did his hands like this and jumped up and down and turned around. So he was the silly guy. But I can't think of any quirks.
Was he scared of spiders?
No.
Okay. Or
Yeah, he was a know-it-all. He was a know-it-all, yeah. He was going to defend to the end. If he was wrong, he was going to find a way to make what he said right.
okay.
But technically, no, you're wrong. No. So I guess that was the thing with him.
Going back to his cooking. Give me an experience that, like, first time he knocked your socks off when it came to something he made.
Well, it's been so many years. Because we would go to a restaurant, and whatever he tastes, he could come back in and mimic it.
Okay.
So anytime, like, I threw my sister's 60th birthday party, and because it was COVID, we did something intimate at the house. It was only like 10 of us. But anytime I did anything, he was my chef. And we had a 5-course meal. You would thought we were at a restaurant. Our drinks were in pineapples. He had oxtail soup. He had...
Whoa.
Yeah. He could cook anything. I can't name anything.
Stuffed lobster.
Yeah, stuffed lobster with the crab meat coming down the center. I mean, just
Cool.
phenomenal. I tell people now, I said, when I look back at his life and how he was with me, from what I know of him, he had to have been an angel that God just gave to us temporarily. Because even in finding some of his journals and reading through them, everything was to the Lord. Lord, your servant needs you, or Lord, your servant wants to know, or Lord, your servant praises you. The way he wrote in his journals, it was always about God. Even when he was struggling with a job that he had up at Fort Eustis, he was CCW up there at Tradoc. It was always about, Lord, your servant is asking you to stand, to obey your promises that you promised to me, So it's just like, wow, I would have never thought to write in my journal like that. I just write,
Yeah.
So I can't think of, what can you think of anything? I can't think of anything.
Go ahead, John.
So I was going to say, tell us what you've set up since he passed in the ways that Julian's still giving to people, giving the gift of eyesight.
I was just about to segue into that, but yeah. It's
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
Tell us more about that.
So, Julian, as I've already told you, he was a donor. So with Legacy of Hope, he was able to give life to 98 people. He was just a
98 people.
98 people, and they're actually going to come to the ball as well. And he was able to get sight to two women. He's always been a giver, like you said about the veterans. When we was in Kentucky, moved them in a home, didn't even know him. Worked at the soup kitchen. There would be kids. We've always been like silent donors, but by iPads and laptops for kids that needed it for college and things of that nature. So before he passed away, when our fathers died 6 months apart. And we talked about starting a scholarship foundation in their honor once he retired from the military. So, as you know, he'll forever be a soldier. He didn't get to retire. So when he passed away, I decided to start a scholarship foundation in his honor that I would love to see grow outside of Alabama. But right now, the Scholarship Foundation is a foundation that is merit-based scholarships for high school seniors in the state of Alabama to apply for. We have 3 different types of scholarships, as you can see right here. And those 3 different types of scholarships, the first one is the Gold Star Child scholarship, and that's for a child who lost their parent while on active duty. And then we have the Eagle Rising Scholarship. The Eagle Rising Scholarship, I use Eagle Rising because that's our thing as a warrant officer for one. But then when you think about an Eagle Rising and the meaning behind the scholarship, because the scholarship is for more of the lower income to apply for. And then the last scholarship is the Richard Anthony Scholarship. And that's the scholarship we would have started in honor of our fathers. Richard is my father. Anthony is his father.
That makes sense.
And as long as the person that's applying for the scholarship meet the criteria, anyone can apply for that scholarship that's a senior in the state of Alabama. And so Julian believed in education. I mean, he had bachelor's, master's. He made sure we had education. I love school. She said, I love school too much. I want to go get my PhD. I got 2 masters, and I want to go get a PhD. But he always preached about being better. Think outside the box. Be better tomorrow than you are today. He's quick to tell you, hey, do you plan on living for another 4 years? And, you know, the young folks, yeah, I do. So why not live in a better place in those 4 years to come than you are today? It takes 4 years to get a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
So, and he was big on empowering young men. He talked to a lot of young men about life. So that's how I came up with the Scholarship Foundation, because of his belief in education, because of his servant heart, because of his giving heart. Is how I came up with Scholarship Foundation. I incorporated the ball because I do not want his life and legacy, the life that he's living, his legacy, to just die by the wayside. And also, I want those that are going to be recipients of the scholarship to be honored for their hard work. So that's how we came up with the scholarship ball. It would be our biggest fundraiser out of all the fundraisers that we do. So the first one is scheduled for January the 13th, 2024 at Jackson Center here in Huntsville from 6 to 10. We have a guest speaker. We're going to recognize the scholarship awardees. We have quite a few things going on. I'm actually trying to get Will Dempson, if they'll call me back, to come and sing a song of his that has helped me through this process. But I hadn't had any luck in getting in touch with them. I'm way down here in comparison, so I guess, you know, they haven't gotten back in touch with me. But so that's how the foundation came about.
Who's helping you put together the ball? Or who helps you with overall everything related to everything you're doing with the scholarship and the foundation? So
we're actually a 501c3.
Okay.
I got busy real fast. Busy keeps my mind off things. I have a board. We have a scholarship board. I have a coordinating committee. I have a social media committee. I have a sponsorship committee. So I have different committees that's out there doing different things as well as myself. Colonel Kuenzli, I still call him Colonel Kuenzli. I cannot call him John. I'm sorry. Cannot. He has been one of my biggest advocates with helping with this. I ran into him at
Veterans Day.
Veterans Day. They were honoring
The Gold
Julian.
Star breakfast. And we were
Right.
honoring him.
Yeah, they were honoring him there, and I ran into
this
him.
like last month.
Yep.
Yeah, and I ran into him.
And I was completely shocked. I was taken back. And I had not...
You didn't know, you hadn't heard?
I hadn't put it all together.
Oh.
And realized that was Julian. And And that was Josie sitting there, and I saw her outside, and she explained what happened. I was just amazed at that point in time. What could I say, right? But we did commit that we were going to have lunch, talk about things, and then she told me about all of his donating and how she was working on this foundation and the scholarships and things, and so we've been talking about it here. And how far are you on donations?
Well, so far people have been giving like $500 here, $500 there, because it's kind of the end of the year, so not a lot. But AUSA committed to helping, and that they did, I'm sure. I've received funding from Redstone Federal Credit Union. They donated $500. I'm a part of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. So my chapter, Epsilon Gamma Omega, they donated $500, and then I have one of our other chapters, Rokai. They donated.
And your first year goal is $12,000. Is that right, for the 3 scholarships?
Yes.
Okay.
That's my first year goal. Yes.
So we'll put a unabashed public service announcement here for the website, the foundation, the ball, realizing where it's all going.
Yes.
In the name of Julian and what his life represented to so many, right?
Yes.
And AUSA, of course, Association of the United States Army. I've talked about them before, and I'm the vice president of our local Redstone-Huntsville chapter. Association of the United States Army exists to support our military and its families. It has several key priorities in there, recruiting, helping the Army reach out to a young America to consider serving. We've talked about that a bit. Scholarship programs and things, and just, again, your family, what's happened, your service, and your continuing drive to support other people. We see that, and we appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
And AUSA aligns with that. And, in this Christmas season of giving, I'm going to hand this envelope to Tay, and that is for our $1,000 donation towards your foundation.
Thank you so much.
And,
Thank you.
And we'll see you at the ball.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I really do.
And like we said, we're just getting started, right?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I tell you, I couldn't do it without people like Colonel Kuenzli helping me. He stayed consistent. You have people that will tell you they're going to help, or they're going to show up, or they're going to do, and they go silent.
Yeah.
I had many people that did that to me, but not once.
Well, I'm gonna, as we continue on the podcast here, this community is such a tremendous supporter of the military, of its veterans, of their families, and I will make the public call right now to encourage more of our community partners, more of our local businesses to realize the goodness of what you're doing, what you've already gone through, and ask them to support your scholarship foundations as well.
Thank you, sir.
It would be nothing better than to see that, as you said, you're starting in Alabama, but to see it go long enduring, so that it's replenishing itself, it's growing, self-fulfilling, and it'd be able to spread across the nation,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So
That's the goal.
those scholarship recipients learn who Julian Evans was.
Yes, sir. That's the goal.
Yeah. And who you are. So
sir.
important.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And thank you to AUSA for this. We humbly appreciate it. Yes,
Well,
sir.
you're welcome.
Thank you. I think for me, when it comes down to the Scholarship Foundation, it has really helped put a smile back on my face, because as I'm doing it, I feel like I'm reconnecting with my husband. I feel like I'm still keeping him alive, but it also gives me great joy to be able to help kids that may have grew up like I did, or kids, just to fill the financial gap for our future leaders. And that's the way I look at it. You can never put a price on education. It's priceless. And to be able to fill the financial gap in some way for them it gives me great joy. It gives us great joy. Matter of fact, Yanna, at 16, started her own outreach organization based off a birthday party that we gave her. And she was like, Mom, Pops, what about other kids that don't get birthday parties like this? Because we had missed so many birthdays with my illness.
Yeah.
And so we did something like a quinceañera. I mean, we did it big
Yeah.
for her. And so she started Butterfly Kissables. And what she did, you want to tell what you did? Yeah. Because she
Yeah, sure, bring it over. It's your episode. You can do whatever you want.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, so my parents threw me this huge Sweet 16, and just with the concept that Pops came up with behind presenting a young lady to the world, 16 is a big, and so just the concept behind that, and then seeing how everything was just decorated and everything was just big and beautiful. And I had the thought, I'm like, it's a lot of people who don't get this. It's a lot of kids who don't get to celebrate their birthdays as big as this, even on your Sweet 16 or when you turn 13, in your teens and stuff like that. So I then was like, hey, Mom, Pops, I want to come up with something to celebrate people's birthdays, to celebrate people, period. Because a lot of people don't get that. So I did volunteer work, and I did debutante my senior year. So we did a lot of work with the Veterans Home here in Huntsville, and we'll go there once a month. I'll get my cheerleaders. I was a cheer captain at Huntsville High. We'll go there and spend time with those whose birthday was that month, and have little goodie bags with Butterfly Kissable teddy bears with the t-shirts on and stuff like that, just to spend time, because a lot of them, their families have forgotten about them, or they don't have family anymore. And then we also adopted McDonald's Elementary School.
You're talking about the veterans at Tut Fan.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
in the veterans home there. Yeah.
And then we adopted McDonald's Elementary School, and went there for Valentine's Day, Christmas, what other holidays?
The $100 gift cards.
Yes, so Christmas I gave $100 gift cards. And the principal at that school, we knew her very well because, which is crazy, her husband worked with Pops. So
Wow.
yeah, and she didn't give us the list, but she knew who needed it the most. And so those kids would come into the cafeteria. We'll present them with the gifts, and I dress up kind of like a princess with the pink tutu and a t-shirt and a tiara. And I'll never forget, it was this one little girl who said, I didn't know that I was going to have this much for Christmas. We can have food for Christmas with this $100 gift card. It was one little girl who was saying how I always wanted to meet a princess. I'm not a real princess, but to her I was. And it just always touched my heart to give. And that's because my parents always taught me that you're supposed to give. I'd rather give than take. I'd never want to take from anyone. When people offer me things, I have to think about it, even though it may come from the kindness of their heart, but I'm so used to giving and giving and giving. And that just comes from the amazing parenting that my parents.
Did something happen at your 16th birthday party that really flipped the switch?
So Pops, he thought outside the box all the time, right? Nobody ever thought of this. So I don't know who made it, but he had it made of a box, like a wooden box, and it was on wheels. So they stuffed me in this box,
Oh boy.
decorated on the outside. And so they wheeled me in, right? Everybody's sitting there like, what's going on?
Where is she?
Right. So he has my cousins and some of my friends. They're acting out as bad influences like alcohol, drugs, or, doing things you have no business. trying to get me out the box, like knocking on the door, trying to get me out the box. So I'm not coming out. And then it took them trying to use the key. They didn't have the right key. And they handed him the key, handed Pops the key. He unlocks it. And then here I come out in this big white dress. And then he presents me with this promise ring and everything. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is huge. Just it was where was it? It was right off of the Tennessee River.
Wow.
On Redstone.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And it was just how beautiful everything was. And I just realized not everybody is fortunate
Gotcha.
to
Yeah, for
experience
sure.
something like that.
So it wasn't like you had some close friends or something and you saw them crying. It was more of just, wow, that was so special. I wish everyone had this relationship with their parent or this opportunity.
Right. And
Okay.
I did have some friends that weren't as fortunate, but I never witnessed them,
Yeah.
kind of upset or feeling the kind of way.
Yeah.
But I did say, I thought about them, and then thinking about just other kids, teenagers who just don't get that don't get that type of experience. And then I also thought about, sometimes how my mom would explain how they grew up.
Yeah.
She never got a Sweet 16,
Yeah.
They didn't grow up like that. And it's just like,
Sure.
I get to experience this, and I want to find a way for somebody to feel celebrated, bring a smile on their face.
Gotcha.
So.
That's excellent. Can we go back to the organ donation and the 98? So, I mean, we're taking liver, like kind of every vital organ, and it's 98 people, and there's blood and
Tissue
and everything.
Yes.
Wow.
I wish I'd have brought the letter with me, but I didn't. So Legacy of Hope, they sent me a letter letting me know who are, not the people, but how many people he was able to affect. And then also Advanced Sighting, the ones that did the article. They also sent me a letter letting me know it was 2 people that were able to gain sight from his cornea. They'll all be at the ball as well. They read all this stuff and seen all this stuff with Julian, because he's on, it's called Beyond the Prey. It's a documentary for warrant officers.
Oh, wow.
So he's on that as well.
Okay.
So they did a lot of research on him, and they was just floored at who he was. And so they're all coming to the ball as well and
Excellent.
doing a video and stuff. But yes, Julian was in, top health. He was healthy.
So these people were legally blind or fully blind? Like,
So the way they explained it to me, not fully blind, but almost like filming over their eyes. They could make out shapes and things of that nature,
okay.
but couldn't see clearly. So,
Awesome.
and I told them, I said, I want to meet whoever had got my husband heart and eyes, because he had the biggest heart, and that person needed to know what.
And they're coming
what's
to the
in
ball?
there. Well, I'm still waiting on releases from the individual recipients. Both parties, myself as the donor, and then them as the recipient, have to say yes on both sides in order.
Yeah.
Because what I wanted to do every year is have someone there that received from him. So I was
Gotcha.
trying to get the 2 that got the eyes to be there this year, but we haven't received their paperwork back yet. But the organizations themselves will be there.
Now, similar question to what we just asked Tay. How many days, weeks go by from his death to when you're saying, okay, I need to get into gear, I need to be active, proactive, right, to kind of handle grief, and I want to start this foundation? How soon was this?
It was even on the program. It was
already on the...
It was on his program.
So
in
less
lieu
than a
of
week or-
flowers.
Wow, okay,
Few
that's right.
days
Few
in
days.
lieu of his flowers, acknowledgments, donate to the foundation.
Gotcha. By the way, I really liked how his celebration of life began. There's all kinds of different religions at how they handle funerals, but it was like, hey, we're celebrating Julian here,
Yeah.
right? And that's kind of started as a very just upbeat, positive, right?
Yeah.
Celebrate this guy.
And you
What a
didn't
gift.
refer to it as a funeral.
I always refer to it as a homegoing
Homegoing.
Homegoing.
celebration.
That's cool.
Yeah. the one choir that sung, you probably seen the heavier guy lead the song. So they were actually from the church in Kentucky that we were First Lady and campus pastor over.
Yeah.
And so they came down to honor him. And they were real upbeat with the one where he's like, walk with me. That one. Yeah. And that even got to me. Because I mean, for the longest, I just stared at the casket because I couldn't believe it. And as things kept going on, it kind of got me.
Yeah.
Into a little bit of celebration. Because I know it's a promotion for him.
Yeah.
But it's just a tragedy for me that I just got to learn to live with. I say this, where do broken hearts go? My broken heart went into this foundation. So.
And I'm sure if he would want nothing less than you just to keep going, right, and keep working.
Yeah, he would. He would. But, you know, we used to joke about it, actually. We used to joke about when we died. So I felt like I would go first because I was the one that was more, you know, had more issues. Julian never had any issues. Maybe a headache here or there. And I would tell him, I said, well, you know, Josie and Jesus we got an agreement. So when I die, you got 3 days. You better go and do everything you got to do for those 3 days. Because after 3 days, I'm rising, I'm coming to get you. And so he would tell me, well, if I die before you, I'm not coming to get you. I'll be in heaven chasing the angels. And when I see you enter into the gate, I'll be like, Jesus, get that crazy lady. So, you know, we played about everything, even death.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, I think we're at a good point of wrapping up. John, do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to say?
So I don't know how this relates to your other episodes, but I just find it incredible. Here we are, days before Christmas. We're talking about a man who gave so much and inspired so much in others and trained and developed others in giving, a life of giving and serving, and his family that is doing the same, even in his death. It's just amazing to sit here and absorb it all in and to be a little part of it, right? You guys are incredible.
Thank you, sir.
And we want you to know that. And I hope you have thousands of viewers off from this episode that take away something from this one, because we talked about a lot of different things.
Yes, sir.
And your spirit is just precious.
Thank you, sir.
To continue on and to keep giving and helping others, despite everything that you've been through, is just an amazing testament to you.
Thank you.
And I, she says I haven't stopped, broke contact. Well, she worked for me when we were both in uniform. Now I work for her.
Yeah.
You're compelled once you meet Josie Evans and you hear everything that she's got going and trying to do.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Any final thoughts?
I just want to say thank you so much for having us today. I know for the past couple of days, with people just not upholding their end, it's been kind of hard, and as her daughter and having to witness how hard that is on her and on her heart, it's like, I wish it was something I could do. If my bank account looked like it, I would definitely help, but I really appreciate this opportunity, and I'm hoping and praying that a lot of people are listening and a lot of people say, hey, let's give a little something. Something is way better than nothing, It doesn't matter the amount. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just, it's something. Because I know everywhere we're at, he's there. And I know Pops is somewhere. He's probably somewhere in this room, probably get your words right. You're not saying it right, But I can definitely say he's got a big smile on his face with everything that my mom has started, and we just hope to see it grow, beyond measures. So.
Yeah.
Keep helping others.
Right.
Josie, shout outs, final thoughts.
Yes. like Tayana said, we're grateful. We thank you for taking out time out of your schedule to talk to us about the organization. We thank you, Colonel Kuenzli, for arranging this and for the thoughtful gift from AUSA. Julian was a hard loss I know for me here on earth and for many here on earth, but I know it was a gain to heaven to gain a man with such a great spirit. It's been a long, almost 6 months, but by the strength of God and remembering the things that he has always told me as my husband leading me and teaching me, he was that man that taught me the word. He made sure I understood the word. And from what he taught me about God and the things that we discussed, I'm able, even in my time of mourning and sorrow, to find some good in God's plans in it. So I thank you because this was divine. It all was divine. And we appreciate the opportunity. And like Colonel Kuenzli said, I hope this will open up the hearts and minds of others to give, because when you give to this organization, you're not only helping a child go to school, but you're also helping this country build its leaders.
Yeah.
And we need them.
Yep.
And we need them.
You know, I wasn't sure if I was gonna share this, but I think I want to share something with you. I had episode 25. There's a lady named Sarah James, 35 years old. Her husband was 50 years old. 6'4", Navy pilot, fit as a fiddle, right? Strong, very capable. In fact, when the FBI decided to come down to Alabama, Luke worked for SEIC and was Rob Hamilton, who was FBI at the time, who now works for Ignite. He was kind of his right-hand man. And Rob was given the task to open up the FBI coming to the Arsenal back in 2017. And Luke was just similar to Julian. Everyone loved him, larger than life. And he dies in his sleep. Goes to bed one night, doesn't wake up, right? 3 little kids. And so Sarah, sitting where you're sitting, Josie, and you know, it took us till we got about an hour into the interview that we kind of started talking about Luke and what happened. But there were 2 really important things that came from that. One was this message that he didn't have a will. They didn't have a living trust. He wasn't hiding anything from his wife, but he felt like he was going to live forever. He thought he was going to live till he was 90, 100 years old. So they were scrambling after his death to just get into his phone, get into the safe. How do we do this? How do we do that? How do I, claim life insurance, whatever. And her message was like, don't do that to your loved ones. Get your affairs in order. And the other one was, if you're 45, 50, 55, and you're a male, go to the doctor, right? And he never went to the doctor.
Oh, wow.
And he did have a heart murmur type thing that was discovered early in his career, and he just never followed up on it, and that's probably what killed him. And she hates to try to think that possibly his death could have been prevented if he had just gone to the doctor and taken some medicine, right? I say all that, and it took me a year before I ran kind of any clip on that, because I knew that would be interesting to people. But I was also just very sensitive to, I didn't want it to I know how people are on social media. And if there's something provocative, they're going to click on it.
Right.
And it's going to go viral. But I really thought about it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this because I know that ultimately that was the message that came out of. I just didn't want to come across as I was trying to, use her and her story to, not necessarily, I'm not making any money, but to profit from this. But I finally ran a clip. 1.3 million views.
Wow.
And I might do the same just because it's about what this is really about. Julian, right? His legacy. I'm not sure how I'll do it. We'll do lots of clips, but there's going to be 1 or 2 that might just go bananas because it touches people.
Right.
Whether that's, man, I needed to hear that. They were having a sob story, dragging through life. Because you can't have these things crush you. And that's what is very helpful when you have religion, you have God, you have something to, you have faith and hope, right, to anchor on. And other people really struggle. I feel for people who unfortunately lost a baby years ago and they can't get over it.
Yeah.
They just can't get over it. They just can't move on because they just don't have that foundation.
Right.
Right. And so who knows how this will be impactful to people, but I have a feeling it'll be very impactful on many different levels of what Julian brought. You know, whether it's the father, man, I'm always inspired when I hear this. Man, I wish I would have done that when my daughter turned 16. She just graduated from college herself. But man, I should have done that when she was 16. That's a good idea. You know, and so who knows? But I genuinely enjoyed, I wish I met him. I'm glad I got to hear his voice. And I'm glad that we'll have an opportunity as well to contribute to the foundation, you know, in one way or another, and spread the word.
Thank you.
Because just another one of many great nonprofits that are here doing great things.
You know, you just said something that made me I don't want to call it a nugget, but I will say this. When you said how she said about knowing the information, my word for every married couple out there, losing Julian was very, very hard. But the hardest part of planning everything, because we didn't think about dying so young, we never bought plots. So I had to walk Valhalla trying to figure out where I was going to lay my husband to rest. So carrying the burden that, one, he's gone. 2, this is where I'm going to lay him forever, his body.
Mm-hmm.
And 3, would he want to be in the ground, or would he want to be in a drawer? Would he want to be above ground in a little container? And then just trying to find a place where I want to go visit. So I tell all couples that I know, while you're living, take that burden off your spouse. Go ahead, find your plots, say where you want to be buried. Go ahead and get the spot, because there ain't but so much real estate, and take that part out of it, because that was the worst part.
Because you're grieving and you're having to make these decisions.
You're grieving and you're trying to figure out where you're gonna lay your deceased loved one.
Yeah.
The passion of your heart, your life partner.
Yeah.
To rest forever. You know, that was hard. So I ask couples, you know, while you are breathing, while you are laughing and talking and happy and joyful, go ahead and make those decisions, because it's hard when you leave it back on another to make for you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy Christmas.
This will be a different Christmas.
It will be.
But you know, hold your family, love them, and somehow, some way, right? You'll look back and you'll see the Lord's hand in this.
Yeah.
It's hard to see that, I know.
Yes.
But I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All the best. And look forward to, if I can still come on the 13th, I'd love to come.
Yes,
to
please.
the Jackson Center.
Please be there.
I'll be there.
Yes.
All right.
Thank
Take care.
you. Thank you.